Hello, I'm Mariah Ramharak and welcome to In Case You Missed It on SportsMax and CEEN TV. Now, the curtains came down on the 52nd edition of the Carifta Games at the Hasely Crawford Stadium in Trinidad and Tobago on Easter weekend, with Jamaica once again topping the medal standings. The Jamaicans amassed 78 medals with 30 gold, 27 silver and 21 bronze. The Bahamas copped 16 gold in their overall haul of 37 to finish second on the table. Meanwhile, home team Trinidad and Tobago secured 25 medals, 9 gold, 6 silver and 10 bronze, followed by Grenada and Antigua and Barbuda to round out the top 5. Well, now that the dust has settled, General Secretary of the National Association of Athletics Administrations of Trinidad and Tobago, that's Jehue Gordon. He joins us on In Case You Missed It. Jehue, first of all, so good to see you and, to finally chat with you after all the excitement. How are you doing?
Thank you very much, Mariah. It's definitely a pleasure to see you also. And we put on a great spectacle here in Trinidad and Tobago for the entire Caribbean and by extension the world to see. But right now all the weight has been removed from our shoulders here at the National Association, and we are definitely looking forward to the great Carifta Games come next year.
Yeah, and Jehue, as you say that, right? Because I always tend to say people see events like this, Carifta 2025, we're excited, but nobody ever really understands the work that goes in behind it, right? So just in a nutshell, because I know it's going to be impossible for you to describe everything that had to take place in order for it to be successful. So tell me a little bit about that weight, that was lifted from your shoulders.
Well, I'm a new General Secretary. We got into position in December last year with 4 months really to prepare for the games. Obviously, there was a board and the executives before would have taken the initiative to at least get the ball rolling. In this instance, this was the first year that we hosted both track and field and aquatics at the same time. So we had to have a joint LOC, which made things a little bit more interesting. But on top of that, it is really just the time period that we would have had once all the confirmations were in place to ensure all the logistics were being handled. We had the LOC. From the LOC, we had an implementation committee that would oversee all the day-to-day runnings and ensure all the logistics in that aspect is being handled. But that is where all the nitty-gritty stuff really had us head over heels with that. Always behind the scenes, there would be stuff that will be frustrating, that would have tempers flaring. But once those things were not privy to the ones that were out there and spectating the event, that is where we definitely have to give kudos to ourselves. We are always hard on ourselves for setting a very high standard. All the countries that come to Trinidad, they expect, obviously, when they hear oil and gas, they believe that we have an endless pool of resources available to us, but that is not the case. We understand the condition or the situation financially that many countries across the world are facing, and Trinidad is no no stranger to all the world variables right now. But it happened. We had great reviews. And obviously, I would like to say definitely kudos to the entire membership of Trinidad and Tobago that lend their hand and assistance in any way, form possible, from the volunteers to the coaches to the support staff and even to the public of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the first time in a very, very long time that we were able to have an entire covered stand capacity filled. We had to filter over to the uncovered stands. As much as Trinidad and Tobago, as much as track and field is the most successful sport in Trinidad, it is not the most popular sport. So we had a really great turnout from Trinidad and Tobago. We had sponsors there that have been long-standing, new sponsors that came on board. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, who has helped make this possible. And listen, we showed up and we definitely show the world what Trinidad and Tobago stands for as a people.
Yeah, I have to say it was so interesting listening to you speak from an administrative perspective, making sure that the athletes, which of course you once were, you were competing for your country at a point in time and you did very, very well also. But just to hear you from behind the scenes now, making sure that, Jehue, they don't feel what you probably had to endure before, it's really, really good to hear you in that capacity. So we have to talk about this now, the medal standings, and as we know, Jamaica copped 78 medals and, they had their 30 gold. Not a surprise that they topped the medal table, right?
Yeah, it is not a surprise that Jamaica topped the medal table. We know where we were this year in terms of track and field. We faced some challenges. The association, we tried to be as fluid and as flexible as possible. Many arms of our government here lend support for the nutritional aspect, for the psychological aspect, for the strength and conditioning aspect with the sports companies support. But what we wanted to do really was to show our excellence here. We have been on an upward trend in terms of medals. Last year we attained 27 medals as a country. This year we attained 25. But if you watch the quality of medals that we amassed this year, it really goes to show that Trinidad and Tobago is trending in the right direction. It may not be the volume, but the quality of medals that we were able to get out there this year really, really states a lot for our young future and the young generation of track and field athletes here in Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, not just the quantity, but the quality, because one of the things, Jehue, that, Trinidadians worry about is for quite some time, people feel that there hasn't been a system in place, to ensure that there are the young ones working behind the scenes, and not just working behind the scenes on their own. I'm talking about a structure for the youths to ensure that, just like countries like Jamaica, because if it's one thing we know for sure, there's a system in place, starting from, I'd say, as early as primary school, where they ensure that the youngsters are in a system and getting ready, let's just say, for as far as the Olympics, because there's a proper plan in place. Did you feel, positive based on what you saw, that, in the future, in the near future, these youngsters are of that quality? And I mean, you would be up close and personal as well with the athletes, they have that mindset, which you also had when you were competing, to take Trinidad and Tobago to a competition as big as the Olympics and bring back, let's just say, a medal.
That is pretty thought-provoking. There are many variables to take into account. Not we, but obviously the world likes to compare to Jamaica. Obviously, having such great athletes, talent. Trinidad does have the talent. The difference really is, one, track and field is the national sport in Jamaica, right? Trinidad is also not faced, and I may use this a bit loosely, but the type of poverty that takes place in Trinidad, it may not be to the same extent as Jamaica. So I believe that the hunger, the drive, and also the fact that the majority of the school system has a lot of professional coaches in there, and that is where the majority of the resource is when it comes to athletes. In Trinidad, we are club-based. Our culture is a lot different from Jamaica. We are a bit more laid-back people. We are considered happy people at world ranked amongst the world. So it is really not to play a blame game on what we are doing wrong. It is really to see how we can do better based on our culture here in Trinidad and Tobago. We have never passed 40 medals. We are there in, there out. But what we would probably have to work on is really the systems in terms of capturing our athletes and ensuring that every year consistently we can have a pool of athletes that we can choose from, because we will get great athletes sparingly, but it is really to be consistent throughout that. On top of that, we face many challenges which almost all federations across the world will face, and it is always to have our systems as flexible as possible.
Yeah, and Jehue, one of the other things that really stood out for me from this Carifta in particular, right? It's that, you know, there were so many other athletes from across the Caribbean giving us some world-class performances. So we had Jamaica with Kamari Kennedy, and we know he received the Sir Austin Sealy Award because he broke the under-17 boys shot put and discus records. And that was well-deserved, but there were a lot of other athletes coming from various Caribbean countries that really lit up Carifta, and now has the world tuning in because, you know, most times when people recognize an athlete, it's when they're already competing at the biggest level. But the quality of what we saw from the rest of the Caribbean, I think, you know, it gave me goosebumps. And now I'm excited to see what these young boys and girls can really go on to do.
Yeah, to be honest, Trinidad, we had a brand new facility at the Hazy Crawford Stadium, so a brand new track. We saw the times that were being run on the track, especially the boys, 110-meter hurdles, under 20, new Carifta record, 13.1 seconds. I had the record at a point in time up until 2014 before William Belosian break the record. We also had the boys 4x4 under 20, which ran 3:06, which is very, very fast at this time of the year. It meant that everyone had to average a split of just 46 seconds dead or hereafter to achieve such a standard, with Trinidad attaining bronze in 3:08. Just to bear in mind, last year, Trinidad and Tobago won silver with 3:11. So it is always great, as the president of World Athletics would have mentioned at the opening ceremony, Lord Sebastian Coe. He said the Carifta Games is the greatest junior track and field event that the world has on show. And it is great to see that the rate of athletes that medal at the Carifta Games go on and medal at the World Senior and Olympic Games are a lot higher from our region compared to the rest of the world. So that in itself tells you the volume and the quality of competition that the Carifta Games bestow. And it is really, really great to have such an opportunity that could be showcased on our beautiful Isle of Trinidad and Tobago.
Yeah, really, really good to be the host country. And as you sit in that administrative role now, Jehue, what has been the biggest takeaway? Because you said it, briefly at the top, you know, there are so many things that happen behind the scenes that, you know, a lot of people never will ever find out because, you know, that's, of course, part of being an administrator. But now that it's done and it's dusted, and as you said, you can breathe a sigh of relief because nobody really felt the brunt, and I'm pretty sure you were outing a lot of fires behind the scenes because that's how this business works. What was your biggest takeaway?
My biggest takeaway really is the systems. Again, sometimes we delegate responsibility, but the system just really has to be clear. Obviously, as a general secretary, most persons will want to lay all the blame on the secretary or the president, but there are roles of authority, and it's really just to be a lot clearer in terms of the systems. I can't throw anyone under the bus. It is a learning experience. We haven't hosted such a major tournament over 20 years. We've hosted the Commonwealth Games in 2023, but when we see the product that the Carifta Games exuded here this weekend, we are really, really proud to pull out such a great feat. We had great turnout each and every day from the opening ceremony, just over 8,000 persons attending every given day. We had over 650 athletes, which is the largest contingent that was able to represent athletes and officials at a Carifta Games. We've had a mascot for the first time. So I'd say everything in itself was a learning experience, and I'm sure moving forward there are so many takeaways, but at this time I'd just like to focus more on the positives. Our team was able to excel no matter the challenges that we would have faced, and I'd like to give all the kudos to everyone that were part of such a great hosting of this Carifta Games.
So Jehue, you know, at the top you touched on the Spectator turnout, but it's something that is very close to my heart because when we were getting ready for the competition, I would have interviewed Karen Surrett about this and what was being put in place and everything to ensure that, you know, the youngsters came out and supported. They got to benefit from seeing these world-class performances because, you know, to me, it's that little spark that can even ignite their interest, right? You spoke about the spectators coming out. Could we have done better?
There is always room for improvement, Mariah. But when we look at what we were able to accomplish before, it meant that we had to do something differently this time. So, a couple key points to note. We made the tickets very easy and accessible for anybody to have access to the event. So, we had the uncovered stands, which you all know as the bleachers, for 20 TT dollars, which is just roughly about $2.75 US per day. We had regular covered stands, which was 50 TT dollars, and we had premium covered stands, which would be closer to the finish line at 100 TT per day, right? So it meant that every person, every walk of life would have access to the facility. And on top of that, our government, through the Sport Company of Trinidad and Tobago, knowing that it was Easter vacation, school was out, they decided to have buses in place to take persons, and that is free of charge, take persons to the facility and back to where they drop off. So it meant now that everyone had access, we had the support, and we looked at what we were able to produce. And trust me, everyone was really, really happy with the product that Trinidad and Tobago showcased to the world.
Yeah, and can you talk to us about some of the benefits, Jehue, of hosting these Carifta Games? Because I think sometimes, people don't really understand, how it is able to bring a country together. And something so simple as bring a country together, because of course we know the financial benefits and all of that. But can you share some of the benefits that you would have been able to just see firsthand from such an event?
Yeah, obviously, the first thing that you would have mentioned just now is just having new eyes on the sport. We use key influencers within Trinidad and Tobago and even the region to help promote it. So as much as track and field may have their own target market, we were able to seep through some new eyes, some new markets, and that way we've had persons who brought their children out. I had a little cousin who, for the first time, he spectated a track and field event, and he was like, "Mommy, I want to be a runner. Uncle, I want to be a runner." So, it's just hearing things like that. It goes to show that we actually achieved some of the stuff, which is really to tap into some of the uncharted markets that we would not have had access to, and also to ensure that when persons showed up, they were able to witness a very, very great product, because you cannot do all that marketing and not have something great to show. So after hearing all the feedbacks, obviously again there were some kinks and nuts to sort out, but the general consensus among all countries, among all athletes, were Trinidad and Tobago were great hosts.
Yeah, I heard that as well. And as you know, I'm based in Jamaica, so it's always good to hear when your country does well, be it, in hosting and getting medals and all of that. So I know you also mentioned, that you think the future of athletics in Trinidad and Tobago looks positive from what you saw. And I'll quote you, you spoke about the quality of the athletes versus the quantity of the medals that, Trinidad and Tobago accumulated throughout Carifta 2025. But I'm sitting here and the planner in me wants to ask you this question, How important, Jehue, is that Trinidad and Tobago now, coming off of the high of Carifta 2025, and there must be a buzz and a high because, you got the medals, you hosted, you saw everybody come out and support. The importance of planning for the next games from now. Like, it's okay to celebrate a few days, the success, but you've been an athlete yourself, and I think you would be the best person to tell us how important it is that, let's just say, come next week, Monday, we sit down and we start planning for the next Carifta Games.
Yeah, to be honest, it is always easier said than done. The first thing first is for the implementation committee to have a post-mortem on the games and the product in itself to see where we fell short, what we can improve on. But it is really for the coaches who are here and locally that may not have had experience to see what we are really faced with when we go to the Carifta Games. Many persons believe that everybody should have access to the Carifta Games and should compete, but there has to be an understanding that development takes place within the country. But when we get to the Carifta Games and anything regional and beyond, you need a certain level of competitiveness, right? Because many athletes can be left depressed when they don't win medals, when they run slower, because the competition is just too high and too far for them at that point in time. So again, a lot of people like to say, yeah, we should be ready next games, this, that, and the other. But at the same time, we as administrators, as coaches, we need to do some introspection first and say, here's what, this is where the gap is, and you would need to plan along accordingly to go. So I'd say we've had many postmortems before, but what comes out it? Once the hype gets done and over with, everybody kind of fits back into the same routine and schedule. So for now, I would just like to pray that many of the coaches who would not have traveled before had the experience to witness the games in itself and to set higher standards and aspirations for each and every person that is among their support team.
Yeah, Jehue, spoken like a true administrator. And I really hope that those watching the show, even the coaches themselves, you're able to drive that message home to them. It's now time for my favorite part of today's interview. It's what we call here rapid fire time. So Jehue, I'll ask you a question. You say the first word or phrase that comes to mind. Are you ready?
Your pressure you're putting me under now, Mariah.
Well, I'm a Trini just like you. We're built for pressure, so let's go.
Okay.
Question number 1. The best part about your new role as an administrator?
Assistance.
Yeah? Wow, one word. The man didn't even give us like a phrase. Anyways.
No, well, they said one word, so that's one word. So, okay, the best part about my position is really about learning right now. So having the opportunities to be in positions where I learn a lot of new things, that is what I'm really, really happy for this time.
I'll take that. I did say a word or phrase, but it's just how you did it. You're just like, okay, assistance.
Okay, all right.
All right, next one. The toughest part, Jehue, about your job. Let me hear that word.
Yeah, managing expectations. Everybody believe that I am Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, but I am just one person. There's an entire executive, there's an entire board, and everyone has their role to play.
Oh, I actually thought you could get it all done. I mean, I thought the same. All right, good for clearing that one up. Now this one, I'm interested to find out the answer. Is it easier being an athlete versus an administrator?
Is it easier being an athlete? I would say the pressure is about the same, but I prefer being an administrator at this point here. Given that this is my current role, I prefer being an administrator. I want to create the change for the athletes, and it'll just take a matter of time until we can get the new wave and generation on board with some of the ideas that we want to fulfill.
Okay. Now, describe Carifta 2025 in one word.
Electrifying.
Wow. Yeah. I'd agree with you because, even just watching it on SportsMax, I felt the same way. I felt really proud. This one for you, one country you'd like to visit?
Dubai.
Dubai, yeah, that's mine too. Favorite food?
Curry goat.
Really?
But it actually switched to curry duck now. Yeah.
Okay, you changed. Curry duck, because I was going to ask you if it's Jamaican curry goat.
Curry duck bus up shot.
All right, very specific. Now this one, what's the best part, Jehue, about being a Trini?
The best part about being a Trini, we are happy people, yeah? As much as there's some violence that is taking place in our country, Trinbagonians are very, very happy people. We are warm, we smile a lot, and we also like a system person. So I'd say we are happy people, and that's probably one of the best parts about being a Trini. You can go by your neighbor house, you can get some salt, some sugar. I don't know of many places in the world, unlike the Caribbean, in particular Trinidad and Tobago, that you could go and get that type of
hospitality.
Assistance.
Yeah, for sure.
Hospitality, correct.
Yeah, love that. Actually, brought back so many memories of being home. This last one, night in or you prefer night out?
Night in, yeah.
All right.
At this stage is night in. When I was younger, obviously night out. But when you have so much work to do, or on a natural basis, you want to get home, you want to unwind. So I'd probably say night in.
Yeah. Well, let's just quickly head across now to social media and let's see what they've been saying about Carifta. It's been trending. This one, let's see. It's Kadeen. She says, Guyana has withdrawn from hosting Carifta 2026. Did you hear anything about that, Jehue?
Yeah. We heard it on Monday morning. Guyana did withdraw the Congress, that they are not able to accommodate Carifta this time.
Wondering if Trinidad would be interested, but I won't put you on the spot. Let's just move along and take this second.
Let's enjoy this moment first before we have that type of pressure again.
All right, no pressure, Jehue. This one from Narissa Fraser. She says, wholesome. Dylan Woodruff walked into the crowd to give his silver medal to his mother. The TNT athlete placed second in the boys under 20 100-meter final yesterday at the 2025 Carifta Games. And you know why this one stood out for me? It's because, one, the fact that Carifta is more than just competing, but it's, Jehue, and you know this, for you could speak from personal experiences.
Yeah.
What joy you've been able to bring not only to your country, but those that mean a lot to you, your family, your loved ones. So this one for me, again, I'm just continuously getting goosebumps. What do you have to say about that?
Dylan is doing what any boy would do for their mom. I remember Keyshawn paid tribute to his mom when he won the Olympics. He brought the flowers back for his mom.
Yeah.
I would always pray with my mom before I competed. When I won, I paid tribute to my mom also. Most of the guys, I would say in particular, their mom is their main source and of foundational support. So I'm not blinded by the fact that Dylan would do such an act for his mom after he won the silver. You know that he never won an individual medal at the Carifta Games. This is his last games. No matter what, your mom would always tell you, don't worry, son, next time. Or don't worry, son, you are my champion, you are my winner. So I know after trying and trying again, Dylan's mom would have been there to witness him running a new personal best, the challenges that he would have faced over the years. So it will definitely be a very sentimental moment for both Dylan and his entire family.
Yeah, and I think that's also what Carifta was about. The youngsters working so hard and then finally getting their flowers. And, paying tribute, recognizing those that assisted them on the journey. And I think it's just the start, Jehue, but, Carifta 2025 served up so many different storylines. It brought to the forefront so many youngsters, that many people were not aware of. So, I know you're a busy man, and I know you have to continue with your duties as GenSec, but I want to thank you, Jehue, for taking the time to stop by on In Case You Missed It, today's show. And I look forward to talking to you again soon, because I know you all have plans and the work doesn't end here. So I hope we can connect again really soon.
Sure, no problem. Thanks very much for having me. All the best.
Yeah, take care. Well, folks, that's a wrap for today's episode of In Case You Missed It. Be sure to like, share, and comment, and let me know which country you're from and how much you enjoyed Carifta 2025. Goodbye for now.